What if every time you set out to prove someone wrong about you, you actually made yourself work by the exact thing they doubted? Sometimes when you're trying to prove yourself wrong, and instead of actually correcting it, I have to say that I have been bad at writing most of my life. And it was something that I was very defensive about. Oh, I'm good enough. Everything is fine. I got through grammar school. I passed it. Actually, that's the funny thing is if you give me a grammar test, I pass it. I know grammar very well. I just wasn't a very good writer about it. And when people would confront me with it, it made me feel defensive. And I knew this was a great weakness for myself. And at some point, you know what I did? Is my company offered training time and my boss asked me what I would like to be trained on. And I said, I would like to get over this once and for all. I would like to get better at this. And so what she did is she provided me training that I could go, and I went through business school and got business writing classes that had actual exercises and then would help you, through whatever it is. So instead of getting defensive about it and trying to prove everyone, no, my writing is just fine, I got better at it and I fixed it. And that discipline set me on a better path instead of just trying to decide I'm going to prove everybody wrong about this. The distinction I want to draw, a line around is that I think that what most is energy draining and traps that we fall into as adults is trying to prove yourself to someone else is not the same thing as improving yourself. When they look identical from the outside sometimes, right? They are different things, entirely different, and they get you different places. So let's start with what proving yourself actually is. Because I don't think we're honest with ourselves about the way we do it or how often we do it. Proving is reactive. Think of someone who is not organized. So you throw this, together this elaborate system, mostly so other people see how very organized you are. And if someone doubts that you'll follow through with someone, you start to follow through very loudly. Notice I'm doing the thing you said I wouldn't do, and you just are waiting to be noticed. The tell is always the same thing. The whole thing is oriented not around doing the thing, but changing the opinion of those around you so that they stop saying those things about you. Instead of actually getting better at the thing, you could execute it flawlessly and walk away no more organized, no more disciplined, no more anything, but just successfully, for a little period of time, have that person see you differently by, just like one person. Think about, I don't know, like if you are in a relationship and you forget to take out the trash on Sunday before the trash trucks come on Monday. And, someone says, well, you never do the thing I asked you to do. I do too. I'm always taking out that trash. See, I'm going to take out this trash right now. Instead of trying to think, I do miss it quite frequently. What could I do to become more consistent with it? So the emotional cost of all of that is what matters the most in all of this. Is proving yourself is keeping you tethered to this whole thing. And as long as your efforts are aimed at somebody else's doubt, that person is never quietly going to, believe you until you do it consistently or whatever it is you're doing it. And in some ways, that person is also steering your life. Even if they never say another word about it, now you're just managing an audience of one. And that's exhausting in a very specific way that has nothing to do with how much work you actually did. It's exhausting because none of that was something that you were really doing in the first place. I'm not blaming it on this, but I have ADHD. And so for years, I was inconsistent with doing things that my friend who was my roommate at the time would ask me to do. She'd say, Jill, would you, go downstairs and get my newspaper when I go home on the weekends? Oh, sure, I'll go do it. I never did it. Well, Jill, will you do this and do that? And I never did it. And it wasn't me being belligerent about it. I just was off in another world, back when I was in my 20s. But now, I learned how to actually do systems so I can actually get done the things that I say I'm going to get done. And I do them, everything. I have my own systems in place right now. So, you think about that if you notice already Proving to someone else is reactive. It usually leads to anger. It's aimed outward, and it leads you tethered to someone else's opinion. And it can really affect both your opinions of each other in a very negative way. This could be anything between you and your supervisor, between you and a friend, you and a spouse. That whenever you're trying to do this, it actually takes less energy to just get better at the thing. So the part that makes proving especially bad on top of all of it is that people rarely update their opinions of you even after you prove them wrong. And I think it's not cynicism, it's just how people's minds tend to work. If they decided you're disorganized, they see you as disorganized. If they see you as unreliable, they think of you as unreliable. And if you're someone who is not doing the thing that you promised that you would do, every time you not do it, it just confirms that message to them, despite how much you're trying to explain it away. I take out the trash a lot, and or I normally pick up your paper. I do it a lot, and I never did. And so you can't win these specific instances. You can win these specific instances and still lose the war because the war was never winnable in the first place. Their opinion of you formed for reasons that have maybe to do with some evidence that you've already done, or they might not be noticing that you have actually fixed the problem that you're trying to solve. So if proving is a bad bet, even when it works, what's the alternative? What could we do instead? And that is improving. I want to be precise because what makes it different is it just sounds more dressed up. It just sounds like a better word, improving versus proving, but it's not. Improving is measured against your own past self, not against someone's expectations of you. It doesn't need a witness. It doesn't matter the moment that the doubter leaves the room or forgets that they ever said anything, or leaves you entirely, whatever it is, because it was never dependent on them to notice in the first place. Improving compounds quietly in the background, whether someone's watching or not watching at all. That's what makes this a durable way of changing that proving never could be. So proving, like I said, needs to have an audience. It rarely pays off. Improving needs neither of those things. You just need tomorrow. Be slightly better tomorrow than you were today. And if proving is such a bad trade, well, why do we keep doing it? And I think it's because proving, we feel, pays out fast and improving doesn't. The moment you show that doubter, hey, look, did you see I took out the trash last night? You feel like you got to win. Or for me, when I wrote something and I said, hey, this ended up pretty bad. I don't know why everyone says I'm such a bad writer. That's the problem, is it feels like I had one success and then I proved in that moment the doubter's wrong. The finished projects, whatever it is, you get some sort of immediate feedback from it. And a flicker of surprise, on their face, like, oh, huh, well, okay, great, you took out the trash, yay. And so it feels like a quick hit. But improving offers you something that is not fast. It is a slow. Nobody claps when you quietly do the better thing of what it is. When you get to be a slightly better writer on Tuesday and get to be an even more better writer. See, this is why I'm not a better writer. On, Thursday, when you start actually improving the thing, the payoff is real. It's slow. It shows up over time. But what the actual difference is in those actual months of you improving, you're not going to see like a shocked face of your person, that you hope to see. But what will be visible is that you are improving over time. It compounds on each other. So now I'm actually a better writer. I started just dabbling in Substack, and I'm trying to do better, and I'm having AI help my writing better, not to write my writing, but how could I have said this better? Or what's is this a clunky sentence? And I tend to now to be a little bit more direct about it, not because I want AI to write my Substack for me. I want to write my Substack. But years ago, I never could have done that because I was a terrible writer. Now, because I've spent years and years and years improving on it, I'm actually capable of doing something and being pretty proud of it. So I want to be fair, on the side too. that, because I'm not saying you should never try to demonstrate competence to anyone. That's not right either. There's different situations at a job interview or building trust with a new client or earning credibility on the team where showing your work to a skeptical person is sometimes just part of it, right? Like I started a new job. Today's my, 3-year anniversary of it. And they don't know you. And so you're trying to prove yourself, trying to prove that you're a good employee, trying to prove that you can be dependable, try to prove that when you're on vacation, I can do all the things I need to do. It's not an ego thing. Some proving is part of life. But when there's something really there that you truly aren't good at, and you are starting to get into a battle of this because you're trying to, I don't know, you get into these places with relationships, where maybe your boss is always, they're always haranguing me that I never get the things done I want to do. The best part of doing that is actually get the things done and don't make a big deal about it and don't try to prove it and not try to fix someone's private doubts about you, but instead just get better at it. That is where your energy should go, is actually being professional, actually doing the things, actually remembering somehow to get the things done. It's a trap to constantly be doing this over and over again. And so I think the diagnostic question here that I've started using for myself, and I'm going to offer it to you as well, is in those moments, those two things can feel a little close. Am I doing this because I genuinely want to get better at a thing, or because I specifically want to prove to someone and have that person think better of me? And it's different. You can see how the tone is different. And so if you're honest with yourself, you usually know the answer pretty quickly. If it's the second one, it's not a mortal failing, right? We've all been there and done that. It's just useful information to tell you that the efforts that you are spending are going to evaporate the moment they're witnessed instead of building into something lasting. There's a version of that. It gets tricky too. And so I'm going to name it right here, is that sometimes the thing would improve you and the thing that would prove them wrong overlap a little bit. So building a real system for your tasks, the ones that you actually use, would make you more organized. Maybe you create a checklist or you put a reminder in your phone to take out the trash. It would actually do both things. It would prove to that person that you're doing a better job, and you would actually remember to do it. Okay, that's fine. That's a good test, because it isn't whether or not, someone is benefiting from just seeing it. The test is really, do you build something that would help you to do this thing, even if that person never saw it at all? If that person went on vacation and you still took out the trash on Sunday night, there's a benefit to it, right? Your trash gets taken away. Or if I become a better writer and my boss leaves, and the one who complains about my writing, she's gone and now I have a different boss, doesn't matter. If I overlap by impressing her and proving to her I can write, at the same time I actually improve, okay, so be it. You know what I mean? Either way, the answer is, if you're improving, that is a side effect that you are going to get better at it. And if you're just trying to prove yourself, it'll cost you and you will never get any benefit back. So just a few small steps is, if you're thinking about this, is one, name something that you've been trying to prove to other people in some sort of way, that there's some sort of vague resentment involved because you're not good at it and you're trying to prove to someone else that you are, or that it's fine. And then the second test is would you still do this if they never found out? So like I said, if my boss moved on and I just became a better writer and now I don't have her to show anymore that I did improve, would improving just be still beneficial to you instead of just sitting there and trying to show someone else? If my friend who asked me if I would go get her newspaper on Sundays, if I came up with a system that allows me to remember those fiddly little things in my life I never quite get done, if I come up with a system that works, it's honestly working for me now, and I have a new method of getting myself to do things I need to do. And so I guess if you're trying to redirect the energy that you're spending on proving to someone else that you're not what they say you are, instead, just get better and let the proving just take care of itself. When you get better at something, if you actually put your effort in becoming genuinely better at something, you will get the benefits you're seeking while trying to prove to someone you're not that thing that you were saying. So if you want a book that goes into this a little bit deeper on this, Ryan Holiday wrote a really good book called Ego is the Enemy, and it's built almost around this one distinction here. I hope that, like I said, the idea is that actually improving in something and getting better at something is a lot less work than trying to sit there and prove somebody else wrong. Appreciate you being out there. You can find everything I do at jillfromthenorthwoods.com. And if you have something that you've been trying to prove to other people instead of just doing the work, let me know down there in the comments. Thanks so much and have a great day.